Tonight, I speak about what must be the word of the week: crackdown. A word that emerges in Kenya every time there's a crisis. It quickly becomes a weapon for the government to put a band-aid on a situation that should have had its attention for a long time. When violence erupts in Samburu, crackdown. A bandit attack in West Pokot, Baringo and other volatile areas, crackdown. Do we see lawlessness creeping in the public transport sector? Crackdown. Increase in spate of muggings and crime? Crackdown. And now here we are again with another crackdown on the border sector. Now, before we go any further, let me state the very obvious. What happened to the woman out on Professor Wangari Maathai Road last week was horrible and unacceptable, and those responsible should be brought to justice. Also, there are rogue elements within the border sector, just as there are in every other profession in this country, and these must be dealt with to the full extent of the law. I wonder, however, about a crackdown complete with some rather interesting targets issued to the police, such as the number of riders arrested, number of motorbikes detained, and the amount of fines collected. Now, in this crackdown, they are checking that the riders have licenses, helmets, insurance, and that they wear their reflector jackets. But aren't these already a requirement in law? Why do we need a crackdown to ensure safety, not just of the riders, but of all other road users? Shouldn't this be a matter of course, an ongoing process? Did we need to have this horrible incident for the authorities to realize that these are important to begin with? And yes, that incident should give us impetus to pay closer attention to this sector. If that be so, then I welcome this. And while we're at it, let's ask some critical questions. This is not the first time we're having a conversation about reforms in the border sector in this country. Remember the 12-person task force in 2018, and then there was a report in 2020 delivered to the CS Interior? Whatever happened to that report and its findings? How different will this crackdown be? In fact, here's another question. What is driving millions of young people into the border sector? If it is unemployment, as many observers believe, how do we deal with this? How do we ensure that they get adequate training? You know, the police live in this same country we all do, where some riders have a total of 1 hour's training on a bike out in an open field somewhere and are quickly put on the roads to start riding, endangering their own lives and those of others. I mean, it's not like the border sector popped out of nowhere last week. There are 2.4 million registered motorbikes in Kenya, many of them owned by young men and women. In fact, the 2020 economic survey indicates that the registration of borders and tuk-tuks rose by 22,172 units, even at what was a tough time for everyone in the economy due to the pandemic. Considering this is becoming a big contributor to the economy, why hasn't it been given the seriousness it deserves? It goes without saying that such exponential growth will also attract those with evil intention. But why hasn't the government focused and reform grown in tandem with that growth in the sector? Why, for instance, do we still have very few roads in this country with bike paths? Folks, this crackdown is welcome to weed out the criminal elements in the sector, but it will be for nothing if it ends just as quickly as all others have. If nothing else comes of that horrible incident, it would be that we take a critical look at a sector employing millions of youth and have wide-ranging, meaningful reforms. If we end at the level of knee-jerk, sporadic reactions in the name of crackdowns, we'll have yet more incidents of such horrible altercations again and again. And even this latest crackdown will be just another dramatic ride to nowhere. That's my take tonight.